The galaxy was silent. Stars shimmered like tiny specks of ice against the black void, and distant nebulae glowed softly, painting the endless darkness with faint colors. Captain Vryn of the Zelthari fleet stared out through her ship's massive viewport, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the scattered lights of the cosmos. Her claws tapped nervously against the console. The fleet had been moving through this sector for days, scanning for signs of human activity. Yet nothing could have prepared her for what was coming. Reports had reached the Zelthari High Command weeks ago, rumors of a human warship entering the Nara cluster. Most considered humans primitive, barely capable of interstellar travel without risking disaster, but whispers had grown, carrying a strange sense of fear. They say humans build monsters of steel and fire, one lieutenant had said, eyes wide. Weapons that can tear through anything in minutes. Vryn had dismissed such tales at first. She had seen countless alien fleets, battled countless species across dozens of systems. Her confidence had been her shield. But something about humans, something she could not name, made her uneasy. The fleet drifted forward, their sleek, jagged ships cutting through the darkness. Sensors scanned the void relentlessly, searching for anomalies, reading every energy signature, measuring every pulse of radiation. Vryn's crew worked silently, their voices quiet against the hum of engines. There was a tension in the air, unspoken but heavy, like the calm before a storm. "Captain," said Lieutenant Krell, his voice low and cautious. "Sensors have detected a vessel, but the readings are unusual. The ship's mass is huge, yet it emits no aggressive energy. It is unlike anything we know." Vryn's claws tightened around the console. "Unusual how?" she asked, her voice steady but her heart racing. It is massive, larger than our cruisers, and yet it moves differently. Controlled, confident, calm. It seems alive somehow." Vryn swallowed. Her stomach twisted. Humans were supposed to be small, fragile, and predictable. They were not meant to survive long in the vacuum of space without failing, without making mistakes. And yet, according to Krell's readings, a single human ship had survived in this sector for weeks without any support. That alone was remarkable. A soft vibration ran through the floor of the command deck, signaling distant communications across the fleet. Every captain and officer glanced at each other, sharing silent questions. No one dared speak too loudly. Fear was subtle here. Not the panicked fear of immediate attack, but the creeping, undeniable awareness that something completely unpredictable was approaching. "Prepare the fleet," Vryn ordered. Her claws released the console slowly, her breathing steady but shallow. "Scan all frequencies. Ready the shields. Alert every sector, humans or not. We cannot underestimate this." Her orders were followed with the precision of a well-drilled army. But even as her officers worked, the unease in the air deepened. This was more than a simple mission. This was a test. And the thing they were about to face had the potential to change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Hours passed in tense silence. The fleet moved in formation, each ship keeping distance, weapons primed, engines humming with energy ready to unleash. Vryn stared into the void, imagining the human vessel somewhere ahead, moving closer with deliberate patience. She felt a strange emotion she could not name. Fear, yes, but mixed with awe. She had seen warriors, conquerors, and fleets capable of destroying worlds, yet none had ever stirred this feeling in her. Her thoughts wandered to the stories she had heard as a child of humans, creatures who had once lived on a fragile blue planet, weak and mortal. Yet somehow they had survived wars, plagues, and starvation. They had reached the stars with nothing but willpower, courage, and stubborn determination. And now in her fleet's path one of them waited. "Captain," Krell whispered again. It's close. Sensors are picking it up. You should see it." Vryn leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. At first there was nothing. Then a small glint appeared in the distance, growing steadily brighter as it drew near. At first she thought it was a reflection of a nearby star, but as it came closer the shape became clear, Massive, smooth, powerful, unlike any warship she had ever imagined. Vryn's heart stopped for a moment. She did not know whether to marvel or to fear. She whispered under her breath, almost to herself, "So this is a human ship." The fleet around her slowed, scanning, sensing, and for the first time in history, an entire Zelthari fleet felt a pause, a hesitation that rippled like a living thing. This was not just a ship. This was a statement. Vryn swallowed, realizing the truth. Humans were not like other species. They were unpredictable, unstoppable when necessary, and terrifying in their confidence. She could feel it in her bones, in the quiet vibration of her ship. This encounter would not be like any other. It would change everything. And somewhere in the distance the human vessel approached, silent, massive, and impossibly alive. The void of space seemed to grow heavier as the human vessel drew closer. Captain Vryn's multifaceted eyes widened in disbelief. At first it looked like a small speck among the stars, but slowly, almost impossibly, the shape became clear. It was massive. A single ship, alone, yet brimming with an aura of authority that sent shivers through the Zelthari fleet. The ship's hull was sleek, smooth, and unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Unlike their own jagged, angular ships, this human vessel had flowing lines as if shaped by purpose and elegance rather than only war. It shimmered faintly in the starlight, reflecting energy that their sensors struggled to categorize. Shields glowed with a soft, steady pulse, hinting at strength that could hold against any strike. Lieutenant Krell's claws trembled as he read the data streaming across the console. "Captain, the readings. It's enormous. Its mass, its energy output. It's not possible. It should not exist." Vryn leaned closer, eyes narrowing. She felt a tightness in her chest she had never known before. "Do you mean it's stronger than our dreadnoughts?" Krell hesitated. "Yes and no. Its design. It is human, but it is more than human. Our records cannot explain this." Vryn felt a chill crawl along her spine. She had fought entire fleets before. She had seen planets burned and civilizations fall. But now, staring at this single ship, she realized she had never faced anything like this. The humans had always been underestimated. And here, in the emptiness of space, their reputation was about to prove true. The human vessel did not move aggressively. It did not fire weapons. It simply drifted with calm precision, almost as if it were aware of every Zelthari ship, every formation, every sensor reading. It was confident, calculated, fearless. "Why aren't they attacking?" one junior officer whispered, claws trembling.
"Should we strike first?"
Vryn shook her head. "No, not yet. Observe, learn. Humans, they are not predictable. That is their strength." The fleet continued forward, weapons at the ready, yet hesitation had taken root. Every captain felt it. The subtle, unshakable fear of encountering something beyond their understanding. Vryn's own heart raced. The human ship was a challenge not of firepower alone, but of will, of presence, of spirit. It was as if the very essence of humanity had been forged into steel and energy. Inside the human vessel, Captain Alyssa Kane stood on her bridge, watching the alien fleet through reinforced viewports. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, hands steady on controls, eyes sharp with focus. There was no fear in their expressions, only awareness. They had trained for this moment. They had prepared for every possibility, but even so, the reality of facing an entire fleet could have unnerved lesser humans. Yet they remained calm. Alyssa's voice echoed gently through the bridge. "Status report. Fleet sensors confirm multiple hostile vessels, Captain," replied Lieutenant Jarrow. "They are moving cautiously. They are observing us." Alyssa nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Humans survive because we adapt. Fear exists, yes, but it cannot control us. Let them look. Let them doubt. That doubt will be our advantage. Back in the Zelthari fleet, Vryn watched as the human ship drew closer, its full form revealed at last. It was larger than any cruiser, more durable than a battleship, and somehow impossibly it radiated a quiet command. It was as though the ship itself dared them to challenge it. The alien fleet halted instinctively, every engine adjusting to maintain formation. But even so, a ripple of panic passed through their ranks. Vryn clenched her claws, teeth grinding. "This is unlike anything in our history," she muttered. "One ship. One human ship. And they hold us frozen." The human vessel did not hesitate, did not retreat, and did not falter. It hovered silently, watching, waiting, its presence both an invitation and a warning. The aliens could feel it, not through sensors but in the very air around them, the vibrations of space itself. For the first time in centuries, the Zelthari fleet felt doubt. They had prepared for war, for conquest, for victory. Yet now one human ship had made them pause, made them question everything they thought they knew. Vryn realized the truth. This was not just a battle of weapons. It was a battle of spirit, of courage, of willpower. And the humans, simple, fragile, unpredictable humans, had already won in a way the aliens could not yet understand. She whispered to herself, almost in awe. So, this is the human way. And as the fleet hovered, frozen in space, the human ship remained steady, patient, and alive. A living testament to the strength of a species that refused to be underestimated. The Zelthari fleet had stopped. Not because of orders, but because of instinct. Ships hovered in the black void, engines humming, weapons primed, yet no one dared make the first move. Captain Vryn could feel the tension radiating from every officer, every crew member. It was as if the air itself had thickened, as if the vacuum of space had grown heavy. The human warship had stopped too. It floated silently, unthreatened, its massive hull glinting in the distant starlight. No weapons fired, no energy pulses flared, yet the aliens felt its power like a pulse in their own hearts. Sensors were overloaded, unable to measure the strange energy field surrounding it. Every reading contradicted the next, leaving them confused and frightened. Lieutenant Krell leaned close to the console, eyes wide. "Captain, their shields. They are not just defensive. They are alive. I do not understand. Every strike we send would fail before it even begins." Vryn felt a chill travel down her spine. She had fought wars, destroyed enemy fleets, watched planets burn. Yet she had never encountered fear like this. Fear not from being attacked, but from standing before something impossible. Something that defied logic, reason, and every calculation they had relied on for centuries. The junior officers whispered among themselves. It cannot be just one ship. Are they immortal? No, they are human. The word sounded absurd even as it left their mouths. Humans, small, fragile, primitive, were never supposed to be capable of this. And yet one ship alone had frozen an entire fleet. Vryn's claws dug into the console. "Formations," she ordered, trying to maintain some sense of control. "Do not fire. Do not panic. Observe and record. Learn everything you can." But even as she spoke, she knew her words were fragile against the weight of reality. The alien fleet was trembling, not physically, but in spirit. The confidence that had carried them through countless campaigns was cracking under the presence of a single human vessel. Inside the human ship, Captain Alyssa Kane watched the alien fleet calmly. She did not speak to intimidate. She did not need to. Her crew worked silently, smoothly, their movements precise and rehearsed. Every officer knew their role. Every soldier knew their duty. Lieutenant Jarrow approached Alyssa. "Captain, the alien fleet. They are slowing, hesitating. Sensors indicate confusion, fear." Alyssa's lips curved into a faint smile. "They have never seen humans like this before," she said quietly. "They expect chaos, panic, disorder. We are neither. We are calm. We are prepared, and that terrifies them more than our weapons ever could." Back on Vryn's bridge, the alien officers were pale, claws tightening on consoles. "Captain," Krell whispered again, "look at them. One ship and we are paralyzed. Our history, our pride. It means nothing." Vryn swallowed hard. The realization hit her with the force of a meteor strike. Humans were not just unpredictable. They were fearless in ways no other species could comprehend. Their courage was not blind but measured, intelligent, and unyielding. And that courage made them dangerous beyond comprehension. The alien fleet had been trained to attack, to conquer, to annihilate. Every maneuver, every tactic, every weapon system had been designed for victory. And yet here they were, unable to act, frozen by the sheer presence of a human ship. "It is humiliating," one officer murmured, unable to hide the mixture of awe and fear in his voice. "We are the Zelthari fleet. We should not hesitate." Vryn did not answer. She could only watch. The humans were not threatening. They were not shouting. They were simply there, and that simple existence carried a weight heavier than any weapon, more powerful than any fleet. Hours passed like this, each second stretching endlessly across the void. The Zelthari fleet remained frozen, unsure, terrified. Every calculation, every assumption, every strategy they had relied on crumbled beneath the reality before them. Finally, Vryn whispered, almost to herself, "It is not their ships that make them strong. It is their spirit, their courage, their humanity." The truth settled over the fleet like a cold shadow. One human warship, unmoving, unyielding, had stopped them all. It had reminded them of something they had never expected. The universe was not theirs to command. And some species, humans, were far stronger than anyone had imagined. In that moment, Vryn understood that this was more than a battle. It was a lesson, and the humans, silent and calm, were the teachers. The fleet remained frozen, and the human ship drifted serene, untouchable, a testament to the power of a species no one had truly believed could challenge the galaxy. And in that silence, fear and respect merged into one unshakable truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Ever. Inside the human warship, the bridge was calm. The low hum of the engines, the soft blinking of consoles, and the quiet footsteps of crew members created an atmosphere of focus and discipline. Captain Alyssa Kane stood at the center, hands lightly resting on the railing, her eyes fixed on the alien fleet slowly approaching. Her face was calm, but her mind was sharp, analyzing every detail, every movement, every anomaly. "Report," she said softly, not needing to raise her voice. Her crew responded almost before she finished the command. "Alien fleet size, 38 warships," Lieutenant Jarrow replied. "Formation is tight, but they are hesitating. Sensors indicate fear or uncertainty. Weapons are active, but no fire yet." Alyssa nodded. She did not smile, but inside, she felt the familiar surge of pride that came with knowing her crew was ready. Humans were not the largest, the strongest, or the fastest species in the galaxy. They were often underestimated. But humans had a secret. They did not panic. They adapted. They endured. They observed. And when the moment came, they acted with precision that no enemy could predict. "Maintain position," Alyssa ordered. "Keep shields at 70%. Monitor all energy readings. I want every vector covered." Her crew moved smoothly, efficiently, like a single organism. They had trained for countless scenarios, from ambushes to fleet-wide assaults, but this was different. The human ship was alone, yet it held the power to stop an entire alien fleet. Alyssa felt the weight of that responsibility, but she did not let it control her. She had learned long ago that fear was useless unless it could be transformed into strategy. Lieutenant Jarrow glanced at her, admiration in his eyes. "Captain, it's incredible. They are frozen. Entire fleet, one ship. And it's just waiting." Alyssa's lips curved into a faint, calm smile. "They expected chaos. They expected panic. We give them none. They see confidence where they expected weakness. That is why they hesitate. Humans fight differently. We do not need to shout, we do not need to strike first. Presence is our weapon, courage is our shield, and calmness is our power." The bridge remained quiet except for the soft hum of the ship. Sensors tracked each alien vessel, recording every adjustment, every hesitation. every spike in energy. Alyssa's crew noted patterns, observed weaknesses, and remained alert without panic. Each officer understood that a single mistake could escalate into disaster, yet none showed fear. That quiet confidence radiated through the ship, and somehow, the aliens could feel it across the void. Outside, the Zelthari fleet drifted in hesitation. Unsure of what to do, Vryn watched from her bridge as the human ship held its position without moving a weapon. The very stillness of the vessel, the calm precision of its presence, made the alien captains uneasy. They had always measured power by energy output, firepower, and speed. But this human ship challenged every calculation. "Why aren't they afraid?" one alien lieutenant whispered, voice trembling. Why do they not flee?" Vryn did not answer immediately. She knew the truth even if she did not want to admit it. Humans were fearless because they had to be. Survival had shaped them. Every human had faced impossible odds in their history, yet they endured. And that endurance, that willingness to stand firm in the face of overwhelming power, created a force stronger than weapons. Inside the human ship, Alyssa glanced at each crew member, her gaze steady and reassuring. "Remember," she said softly, "we are humans. Our strength is not just in our ships or weapons, it is in our spirit. Every person aboard this ship carries the courage of billions of humans who came before us. Do not underestimate it, and never forget. It is enough to make the universe hesitate." Her words were not loud, but they resonated. Her crew straightened, their movements even more precise. Every console flicked to life with new calculations. Every sensor was checked twice. And above all, every officer understood that calmness was not weakness. It was a weapon that the aliens could not anticipate. Vryn's fleet hovered, frozen, as if the very air around them had thickened. Their weapons, their formations, their pride, all of it seemed fragile in the presence of this single human ship. One ship, calm and alone, radiating confidence, had stopped an entire fleet in its tracks. For the humans, it was just another mission, another patrol in a galaxy full of unknowns. But for the aliens, it was a revelation, a terrifying awakening. They had underestimated humans for centuries. They had expected panic, chaos, and weakness. What they received instead was confidence, patience, and a quiet, unshakable presence. And in that quiet, the universe felt smaller, sharper, and more unpredictable than ever. One human ship alone had reminded every alien that humans were not to be measured by size or firepower, but by courage, intelligence, and the strength of spirit. Captain Alyssa Kane took a deep breath, feeling the weight of both responsibility and triumph. She did not celebrate. There was no cheer, no outward display. There was only awareness of her crew, of the aliens, and of the incredible truth that humans could command respect and fear without ever firing a shot. And across the void, the alien fleet watched, frozen, struggling to comprehend what they were facing. For the first time in history, one human ship had done what no fleet had ever done, made the impossible seem inevitable. The silence of the void shattered first by tension, then by action. The Zelthari fleet, once frozen in awe, finally decided to move. Their engines roared to life, energy flares rippling across the dark expanse. Plasma cannons fired, streaking bright green and gold across space toward the human warship. Captain Vryn's claws gripped her console as she watched the shots vanish harmlessly against the human ship's shields. Sparks danced across sensors, bouncing back harmlessly into space. The alien fleet halted again, fear mixing with disbelief. Every officer leaned forward, jaws tight, hearts pounding. Their best attacks, meant to cripple the humans in moments, failed. Shields holding at full capacity, Lieutenant Krell reported, voice trembling. Not a single strike. Has landed. Vryn exhaled sharply. Prepare secondary weapons. Target their engines. Meanwhile, on the human bridge, Captain Alyssa Kane watched every alien maneuver calmly. Her crew moved as one, calculating the fleet's weaknesses, anticipating every strike. She did not panic, though the alien fire grew heavier. Instead, she gave precise orders, her voice a soft but steady thread that wove through the tension of the bridge. Divert power to forward shields by 10%. Adjust cannons for Vector 347. Prepare countermeasures. The humans' responses were measured, surgical. Each alien shot that came close was met with shields, evasive moves, or carefully timed energy pulses that redirected attacks harmlessly into the void. It was not brute force. They could have destroyed half the fleet with sheer firepower, but precision, strategy, intelligence, and it was enough to terrify the aliens. Further, Bryn's claws dug into the console. How can one ship? She whispered. Her mind raced. Her fleet had trained for centuries. Their fleets had conquered countless systems, yet they could not touch this single human ship. The impossible had become reality. From the human side, Lieutenant Jarrow monitored the alien energy surges. Captain, they are adapting. Some are trying to flank us. Alyssa's eyes narrowed. Let them. They think they are learning. But humans are unpredictable. We do not fight like them. We do not rely on sheer numbers or size. Every move is calculated. Every pause is deliberate. Let them overreach. They will expose themselves. The alien fleet, spurred by pride and panic, began splitting formations. One group tried to circle the human vessel. Another aimed for its engines, while the rest fired volleys indiscriminately. Every alien ship moved with aggression and arrogance, but their fear slowed decisions, made them hesitate at critical moments. And the humans exploited it. Alyssa gave one final order. Engage precision strikes. No overkill. Keep them guessing. The human ship's weapons fired in controlled bursts, each blast striking exactly where it would disable or delay without unnecessary destruction. Engines faltered on 2 alien ships. Communication arrays glitched on another, and sensor readings went haywire across several others. The Zelthari fleet reeled, confusion and fear spreading like wildfire. Captain, they are losing coordination, Krell whispered, voice almost breaking. Our fleet, it is. Breaking formation. Vryn gritted her teeth, refusing to show panic. Her pride ached as she watched centuries of training crumble under the precision of one human ship. Hold your lines, she commanded. Do not let them see weakness, but the aliens already knew. Humans did not need to fire in anger to dominate. They only needed presence, intelligence, and resolve. And Alyssa Kane, calm and collected, led her crew like a single organism, their ship moving with deadly grace across the void. Each strike was deliberate. Each movement was calculated. And with every success, the humans reinforced one truth that would echo through the galaxy. One ship, one species could stand against an entire fleet and survive. Finally, after hours of strategic maneuvering, the alien captains slowed. Their attacks became cautious, hesitant, more defensive than offensive. The human ship remained unscathed, calm, and in control. Every glance at the aliens revealed something new: uncertainty, fear, and respect. Vryn, for the first time, understood the lesson the humans had taught. They are not just strong, she murmured. They are unshakable. They survive because they endure. They fight not for destruction but because they must, and that is what makes them terrifying. The void between the 2 fleets was silent again, filled with tension but no longer with doubt. The aliens had learned something profound. Humans could not be measured by weapons or numbers. Humans were unpredictable, fearless, and brilliant in ways the galaxy had never seen. And as the fleets drifted apart, both sides understood it. This battle was not won by size, speed, or firepower. It was won by spirit, courage, and intelligence. One human warship, unmoved by fear, had changed everything. The Zelthari fleet drifted in silence, scattered and faltering. Captain Vryn rested her claws on the console, breathing unevenly. She had fought countless wars, seen planets burn, and commanded fleets through impossible battles. Yet never had she felt so powerless, so utterly humbled. One human ship, alone, calm, and deliberate, had shown her the limits of her pride. Her officers avoided her gaze. They did not dare speak. Every sensor read the same truth. The human warship was unbroken, unyielding, and in control of the entire engagement. They had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming weakness, chaos, and fear, and they had been wrong. Vrin's heart ached with a mixture of awe and shame. How can one species do this? She whispered. How can one ship, one human, hold us all at bay? Lieutenant Krell's voice was barely audible. Captain, it is not just the ship. It is them, the humans. They fight differently. They endure. They adapt. They are fearless in ways we cannot understand. Vrin closed her eyes, feeling the weight of that truth pressing down on her. Humans had survived against impossible odds for centuries. They had fought their own wars, faced disasters that would have destroyed any other species, and yet they endured. Their strength was not in technology alone, it was in spirit, courage, and determination. She remembered the first time she had heard of humans, long ago. Stories of small creatures living on a fragile blue planet, surviving against nature, famine, and conflict. They had built civilization despite weakness, fought enemies despite inferiority, and reached the stars with nothing but willpower and stubborn resolve. Now, centuries later, one of them stood before her, demonstrating everything the Zelthari had doubted. Across the void, Captain Alyssa Kane stood quietly on her bridge, observing the alien fleet. Her ship was unscathed, her crew calm. She felt no triumph, no excitement, only awareness. Every officer, every crew member, understood the magnitude of what they had done. They had held an entire alien fleet in check, not through rage or overwhelming firepower, but through discipline, intelligence, and unshakable courage. Lieutenant Jarrow approached her. Captain, they are retreating, hesitating, they are broken in spirit. Alyssa nodded. They have realized something they did not expect. Humans are not just fighters, we are survivors. And survival above all is our strength. Back on Vrin's bridge, the realization deepened. She had expected the humans to panic, to falter, to act impulsively. Instead, they had displayed a calm that was terrifying, a patience that became a weapon. The alien fleet had fired, maneuvered, tried to break the human ship, and yet the humans had remained composed. Every strike, every adjustment, every calculation had been perfect. Vrin's eyes filled with a strange mix of fear and respect. She had faced great captains, brilliant tacticians, even legendary warriors, but none had shown the raw, unyielding courage that these humans possessed. They did not fight for glory. They did not fight for conquest. They fought because it was necessary, because survival demanded it, because they refused to be underestimated. Captain, Krell's voice shook. We cannot measure them with our usual tactics. They are something else. Vrin nodded slowly, swallowing hard. Yes, they are unbreakable, not because of their weapons, but because of who they are. The alien fleet began to withdraw slowly, carefully, each captain unsure of what to do next. Pride had been shattered. Fear lingered like a shadow over every officer. They had entered this encounter expecting easy victory, and yet one human ship had left them questioning everything they thought they knew about power, strategy, and courage. Meanwhile, the human crew worked silently, observing the retreat, recording data, noting patterns, but never celebrating. For them, victory was not a moment of pride, it was a responsibility. One human ship had shown that courage and intelligence could stand against overwhelming odds. That was the true lesson, and it carried a weight far heavier than any applause or victory message. Vrin finally spoke, her voice barely more than a whisper. They are not like us. They are something more, fearless, clever, enduring, and terrifying. The Zelthari fleet limped back into formation, shaken and uncertain. The humans remained calm, their presence a quiet reminder that spirit and courage could outweigh firepower and numbers. And in that moment, across the void, both sides understood a simple, undeniable truth: humans could not be underestimated. Not in skill, not in courage, and certainly not in spirit. The human warship drifted silently, holding its position as the aliens retreated. Captain Alyssa Kane looked across the void and whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "We are humans, and that is enough." For the first time, the Zelthari truly felt it. The weight of human resilience, the power of their spirit, and the truth that one human ship could change the course of history without firing a single devastating salvo. In that silence, fear, awe, and respect merged into one unshakable understanding. The galaxy had underestimated humans. They would never make that mistake again. The void was quiet again. The stars twinkled like scattered diamonds, but the tension that had gripped the galaxy lingered. The Zelthari fleet, once proud and unyielding, moved in slow retreat. Captain Vrin's eyes remained fixed on the distant glow of the human warship, her claws gripping the console. She could not take her eyes off it. One ship alone had done what entire fleets could not: stopped them, humbled them, and forced them to rethink everything they knew about power. Her officers whispered among themselves, their usual arrogance replaced by awe and fear. "We cannot fight them," one said. "Not like this. Not one ship. Not alone?" Vrin did not respond immediately. She could feel it in her bones, the truth settling like a weight she could not lift. Humans were not like any species she had ever encountered. They did not rely on numbers or brute strength alone. Their courage, intelligence, and spirit were weapons far deadlier than plasma, missiles, or fleets. One human ship, calm and precise, had demonstrated that. One human being aboard that ship had shown a galaxy what it meant to survive against impossible odds. Across the void, Captain Alyssa Kane stood on her bridge, observing the retreating fleet. She did not feel victory, not in the way most would. There was no cheering, no celebration. Instead, there was awareness, a deep, steady understanding of the responsibility they carried. Humanity had not conquered this fleet. They had simply reminded the universe of what humans were capable of: endurance, courage, intelligence, and an unbreakable will. Lieutenant Jarrow approached her quietly. "Captain, they are gone, or at least retreating. They will think twice before challenging humans again." Alyssa's eyes softened, but her voice remained calm. "We did not stop them with weapons. We stopped them with presence, strategy, and spirit. That is the power of humanity. Let them learn it well." Back on Vrin's bridge, the alien captain's pride ached. She had faced countless enemies, conquered entire star systems, and yet she had never felt this combination of fear and respect. One human ship, one human, had changed the battlefield without a single devastating strike. The Zelthari fleet had been frozen by courage, not firepower. Vrin swallowed hard. "They are not like us. They are something more. Fearless, clever, enduring." Her voice faltered slightly. "And terrifying." Her officers nodded silently, each grappling with the realization. Pride had been shattered. Fear lingered. And yet within that fear, respect had grown. Humans were not to be underestimated. The galaxy had misjudged them for centuries. That mistake would never happen again. The human warship drifted silently, calm and serene. Alyssa watched the alien fleet fade into the distance. She felt no triumph, only awareness. One ship had faced an entire fleet. One species had proven that courage and intelligence could surpass sheer size and numbers. And now the galaxy would remember. Alyssa turned to her crew, her gaze steady and proud. "We are humans," she said softly. "And that is enough. One ship, one crew, one species. Enough to make even the greatest fleets hesitate. Remember this moment. Carry it forward. Humanity's strength is not in destruction. It is in endurance, spirit, and courage. That is what makes us unstoppable." Her crew nodded silently, understanding the truth in her words. They had seen history in the making, witnessed the impossible, and had survived against overwhelming odds. Not through firepower, but through discipline, focus, and the unshakable human spirit. Across the galaxy, the story would spread. The Zelthari fleet would return home and tell of the human ship that stopped them. Other species would learn the tale, and one simple truth would echo through the stars. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were unpredictable, clever, fearless, and capable of facing impossible odds with calm determination. Captain Vryn remained on her bridge, staring at the human ship until it vanished into the distance. She understood that a new era had begun, an era in which humans could not be ignored. Their spirit, their courage, and their intelligence had reshaped her understanding of power. One ship had not only stopped her fleet, it had changed her entire view of the galaxy. And somewhere in the quiet hum of her ship, Alyssa Kane whispered to herself, almost as if speaking to the universe, "We are humans, and we will endure, always." The void remained silent, but the weight of what had just happened lingered. One human warship had stopped a fleet. One species had reminded the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and spirit were more powerful than any weapon. The universe had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Humans were unpredictable, fearless, and unstoppable when necessary. And in that knowledge, every corner of space trembled, not from fear of destruction, but from respect for a species that refused to be underestimated. The stars shone on, indifferent yet witness to history, and one human warship, calm and alone, drifted forward, carrying with it the spirit of an entire species, ready to face whatever the galaxy might throw next.